Hello, and welcome everyone to today's virtual workshop series. In just a few moments, you are going to be hearing from the DiJulius Group's president, chief revolution officer, and best-selling author, John DiJulius, as well as the DiJulius Group's vice president of consulting and future best-selling author, Dave Murray. John and Dave will be speaking to you today on how to create a recruitment experience, which is a segment in their new book, The Employee Experience Revolution, launching in just a few weeks on June 10th. Before I turn it over to both John and Dave, I just wanted to mention a few housekeeping things before we get started. There will be two ways that you can communicate with us today. So if you have any questions in regards to who to reach out to, how to get more information, anything that you would like to share with all of our attendees today, please feel free to use the chat feature that's located on the bottom of your Zoom screen. John will be taking live Q&A at the end of the presentation today. So if you have any questions that you would like for him to answer live before we wrap up, please use the Q&A feature also located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. I also wanted to let everyone know that you will be receiving a follow-up email from me later today. It will not only include a copy of the recording of today's presentation, also a PDF copy of the slide deck that John and Dave will be using during their presentation, and additional resources from the DiJulius Group. So again, thank you all for joining us, and now I am going to turn it over to both John and Dave.
Welcome, revolutionaries. I'm John DiJulius, and we have...
I'm Dave Murray.
Dave Murray. I'm excited today, Dave, to talk about the creating a recruitment experience. This is one of my favorite chapters of our new book, The Employee Experience Revolution.
Yeah, I love this topic, and we'll get into it in just a minute here, John, but this is one of those things that companies just really don't think about, right? It's an afterthought at best, and most organizations don't even know that it can be an experience, let alone purposely think to provide an experience. So it's really a missed opportunities for a lot of organizations.
Yeah. So let's just get to it. The employee experience revolution. What we mean by that is great companies help people live extraordinary lives. Their leaders inspire employees to build lives of meaning and purpose. So we've covered the previous chapters of the employee experience revolution. And today, Dave?
Today we're on chapter number 4, creating a recruitment experience. And as we said, for a lot of companies, that doesn't exist. And so we're going to give you a little bit of the framework of what that can look like in your organization. It just takes a little bit of thought process, making sure that everyone understands that those prospects that you're interviewing are potential customers as well and need to be treated as such. This is a really good one. So when we talk about creating a recruitment experience, prior to the Great Resignation and the labor shortage, so prior to the pandemic, if a person wanted a new job with a company, a significant percentage of them would just apply and interview with one company, then they wait to hear if they got the job. Today in the current landscape, it's an employees market, right? Employees are talking to several organizations at once. Very often an organization is making an offer only to find out the next day that the prospect is taking a job somewhere else. They're looking for the best offer. They're looking for the best that they can do. And so here's the thing too, best offer does not always mean highest compensation. Yes, that's an important piece of it, but it's not always the end all beat all. It can mean different things. It can mean not only pay, but opportunity for advancement. It can mean flexibility, the culture within the organization, hard and soft benefits. What are the personal development and professional development opportunities? What's the mission, the purpose, the core values? All these things play into that.
Work from home.
Work from home for sure.
Evenings,
hybrid.
Weekends. Some people need to work evenings and weekends, and some people can't.
Right. So finding people have more ability right now to find the perfect fit for them than any time before, thanks to work from home and virtual work and all those things that factor into it. So we really need to be on our game. It's not just putting forth the best pay anymore. That used to do it as recently as maybe 5-6 years ago, but not anymore.
So Dave, being an entrepreneur of a few businesses for 31 plus years, I made the mistake, and I don't know, and this is probably a lot of leaders' mistake. And what my mistake was, I never thought of as a recruitment experience. Um,
Hmm.
my, the way our interview process was designed was to screen, filter, and just be like, I make sure we didn't hire the wrong person, and
Right.
it was totally one-sided. Are you right fit? Here's the job, here's what we expect. And it wasn't about you, the candidate's experience, as much as it was a filtering, screening process to make sure we didn't let, wrong fits in. And so, as you and I and the DiJulius group have really been organically writing this book the last 4 or 5 years because of, the demand for the employee experience revolution. I realized, just what you said, that people aren't just interviewing at one company today. They're going from, our interview to the, another interview to see what the best offer is. And besides making sure they're right fit for the DiJulius group or whatever company, we want to make the next interview process pale in comparison. Like, that this sucks. Like, man, compared to my last interview.
And I'll share this too, John. That's not all that hard to do, right?
No.
Because so many organizations aren't focused on this as an experience. It's kind of the same old as it always been. I'll tell you, yeah, I've been with the DeJulius Group for 11 years now, but back when I was interviewing, when I was younger in my career, yeah, I had some lousy interviews, right? Where just like they would just say meet us at 10. There was no information on where. You really had to find a lot of stuff out. It really was not taking the candidate into consideration at all. And so I think it's such a huge opportunity for organizations. And
Yeah, I mean,
and
it used
so
to be you're lucky that
yeah.
we are taking the time out of our day to interview you.
And one other thing on that thought process is not only is it important to deliver them a great experience so the other experiences pale in comparison, it's also really important to give them an opportunity to make sure, as you said, we're the right fit for them. Right? You said that the focus used to be on seeing if that person was the right fit for us. We need to be the right fit for them because we don't want that next offer to come in a month later or 2 months later and then be out the door 90 days into this, because we know how expensive that is. That's why this entire book is so important, because it's not just the recruitment experience, but it's the onboarding, all the things that we're going to talk about in future episodes. We need to make sure those all add up and beat out what they're going to get at the other guy.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So
Uh,
a,
yeah.
a just cause is a vision of the future that does not yet exist. And you will commit all of your energies to advance that vision. I'm quoting Simon Sinek here as I continue. And the people who and the people who want to attract, believe in your vision and your future. So much so, they may turn down a better opportunity somewhere else because they want to be around people who are committed to building a world that doesn't exist. That's a quote of Simon Sinek talking about what that experience can look like, right? It's not just finding the right person for the job, it's literally attracting people who have mutual beliefs, who are believing in what you're selling, that vision for themselves and for the overall organization, and how important that is. So much so that they may turn down a better opportunity somewhere else because they want to be around people who are committed and they want to be part of this particular vision. Now, this quote from Simon Sinek, John, actually makes me think of myself 11 years ago
Are you
when I
comparing
left.
yourself to Simon Sinek?
No, I'm not. I'm comparing myself to the person that Simon Sinek is talking
Simon
about in
makes
this.
me think of myself.
This quote makes me think of myself 11 years ago when I left my previous job to come to the Julius Group and took a gamble. It's my first time with a small organization. I took a little less money, but I believed in the growth opportunities. I believed in the where the organization was going, and the belief system, what I believe to be true, led me to take this leap of faith, and obviously it's paid off for me because here we are 11 years later.
That's great. That's great.
So here's the thing, and you always say this, John. I love this quote. Um, we're not for everybody, and we don't want to be. And the quote that you always say is, we want to put a 30 high barbed wire fence around our organization, right? And that's what the hiring process is, right? It's not finding anyone that can take that job. It's not finding warm bodies who can do the job for us. It's making sure that we're finding people that are going to be a great fit for our existing culture, and they're going to help move our mission forward. So we're not for everybody. And I think that people that are hiring on a regular basis need to remember that, because it's really easy, especially when times are tough, like now, when finding people can be difficult and there's pressure and maybe we're understaffed. It can be really easy to fall into what we call warm body syndrome, and just find that next person that looks okay, even though we may not be 100% sold that they're the right fit for our culture.
Yeah, we talked about this in earlier chapters, in previous episodes, that um, people don't quit companies, they quit people, and that includes managers, but it also includes coworkers. Take for example, if the DiJulius group is going through incredible growth and we just start hiring anyone, um, you may not want to stick around because we're not doing a good enough job protecting our culture. You don't work in a silo. I love this. There's no labor shortage, just a turnover crisis. And I believe the labor shortage is a crutch that too many leaders use. Say, throw up their hands. Why don't we have enough people? Why don't we have good people? Or why are we short staffed? Why are people quitting? Oh, it's that damn, labor shortage. No, we're losing or too many good people. And so let's watch this.
I drop off and pick up my kids from school, so I can't work early or late. And I need to make enough to make it worthwhile.
I can only work 2 days a week, and it can't interfere with my other job.
I can do full-time, just not daytime, and I need benefits. Good ones.
And it'd be nice if you paid for my tuition. Like all of it.
I know that probably makes people hair raise on the back of their neck, these demanding employees. But that's actually an Amazon commercial for
Right.
hiring. And that's, listen, directly or indirectly, we're competing with companies like that. The salons that I own in Northeast Ohio. I say this all the time. We compete with Progressive Insurance, and people are like, "What? What?" Well, I mean, you can go work at Progressive Insurance is headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio, and just amazing perks and on-site daycare and on-site medical, a pharmacy. I mean, Dave, your wife works there, and not that they cut hair, but if you want to answer phones for the John Roberts Spa. Or you can answer phones at Progressive, and there's certain perks that we could never compete with, with a company Progressive size. So another quote I like is, if you spend most of your time coaching an employee up, trying to get them to get it, you're probably hiring poorly. So, the biggest problem with a typical interview is that most intelligent candidates can game it. Anyone can be on their best behavior for a short amount of time, and most interview questions are predictable. The key is to finding out a candidate's true identity, how they act when they don't know what they're being judged on. And the companies that hire the best have the best screening process that are ungameable, which we'll get specifically into some examples. But here's another video I love.
Amy, it says you are trained in technology. That's very good. Are you adept at Excel?
No.
PowerPoint?
No.
Publisher?
Not really.
Exactly in what area of technology are you proficient?
Snapchat, Pinterest, Instagram, Vine, Twitter. The big ones.
You know, it's funny, Dave. I don't know if you show this in your presentations, but I do. And probably closer to coming out of the pandemic, I would ask the audience, leaders, by a show of hands, how many people would have hired her in the past couple of years? And like everyone raises their hand, and they're jokingly just meaning that they were so desperate they would have hired anyone. So the brands that will survive the Great Resignation era will be the ones who remained relentless in their hiring standards. And this quote I love to say. It's easy to say and hard to do. It's even hard for me to fathom. But it's better to lose the sale than the reputation. And so what that means is, as leaders, me myself, I want growth. I want 10 times growth. I want to grow my business since the day I started them. However, what this means, is better to lose the sale than the reputation, is that just hiring anyone to take care of the demand, it will hurt the business long term. Meaning, if I just put anyone out there, any consultant on a project, whatever the business model may be, and they're not what our standard has been, it's better to turn people away, clients, potential clients, and say, we're at full capacity right now. And while, it sucks, it's better to do that than to give them just anyone, anger them, piss them off, have them doing brand terrorism about our company as a result. There's something about, there's a mystique about not being able to get in with a company that makes clients or potential clients want to do business with you again. So I really believe in that. It's better to lose the sale today than to lose the reputation forever.
Yeah, 100%. But that's what the trap that so many organizations were falling into. And they were doing so many things, really mediocrity with their clients because of it. And they kind of fell in that trap where it started to not only hurt their internal culture, but also affect their external experience. And it's a hamster wheel that it's hard to get off of. Now, we talk about performance being contagious. And we talked about this in our first episode, why the employee experience. We talked a little bit about why performance is contagious. And there's this great study that I'm going to talk about now. So Rotterdam School of Management in the Netherlands conducted a study demonstrating contagious behavior in the work environment. And here's what happened. They split a group of college students into 4 teams and instructed each team to complete a management objective. Teams performing the best, so the highest performing team would receive $100 each. So they had some incentive there. But there was a combination of students, and then the professor conducting this test also hired some actors. And these actors were put into these groups, and they played one of 3 roles. One was a slacker who would kind of disengage and just kind of hang out, put his or her feet up on the table. The other one was a jerk who was sarcastic and just not a good fit to the group. And then the third one was just kind of a pessimist and kind of depressed and just, complained the entire time. And so here's what happened when they put these lower performers on what was considered to be a high performing team. Right. So in all these trials, and they did this over months, right? They would repeat this over and over and over again with 4 teams of students that they brought in and incorporate these actors into their groups. And so the interesting thing in all the trials conducted over these months, groups with one underperformer did worse than the teams without an actor, right? Without the underperformer, by an alarming rate of 30 to 40%. So almost half, right? Almost half the productivity. And then to make matters worse, the other members started mirroring the poor team members' behaviors, right? So it literally started to bring down the attitude and the performance of what were considered high performers going into this particular exercise. So it's so interesting that people started to mirror that poor poor performance and behavior. So when we talk about performance being contagious, it is so true, right? This one poor performer brought the entire team down. Again, what were considered to be really high performing team members. So the thing we have to be thinking about is, as leaders and as business owners, what happens when we do that with our teams? It probably happens all the time. When we hire someone, we kind of feel lucky that we got someone. Maybe we're a little desperate to get warm bodies because the phones are jam packed or whatever the issue is. And then all of a sudden they're going to start to lower the entire team's productivity and morale. It happens all the time, unfortunately, and it's such an important thing to keep an eye on.
And when we talk about earlier in the book, our employees are the average of the 5 people we as leaders surround themselves with. Yeah, this study or studies really blew my mind, right? I mean, we are so affected by other people. So yeah.
And then we also talk about the concept, it kind of plays right into coming out of that study. We talk in this chapter about the concept of A players only. And think about it for a minute. Think about if you're able to fill your team with A players. So you can actually have fewer people on a team. You could pay them more, right? Give them more benefits, more compensation, whatever that compensation is, which actually would equate to lower total labor costs per the revenue that's coming in, right? So it's really a great strategy if you think about it. But again, a lot of organizations aren't focused on this as a strategy of really finding those top performers, building a great team where they're working well together, and letting them go and do their thing. And it's kind of the old adage, you get what you pay for, right? Hiring great people is truly an investment. It takes time. You have to find the places to go. You learn that over time. Where do we find our A players? Where are they working before? Where are they coming from? What schools are they coming out of? Whatever that is, it takes time to study and research and figure out where that labor pool is for you. But you'll find that if you give it the time, and then make sure that when you have those rock stars, that you're keeping them, right? You have that culture that keeps them and makes them want to stay. And that's really how you build a world-class internal culture and a world-class organization. The hard part is, and this is hard for some people, you have to start to remove the poor performers to make room for the A players. And sometimes people get caught in that trap of, well, we can't let people go because we're too busy. And it just perpetuates this. Sometimes you just have to cut the cord and make the change and get the right people in the right seats.
Yeah, and something else I've learned, Dave, that A players hang around with A players. So if someone comes in interviewing and how'd you hear about it with Dave Murray, that's different, than someone you've let go that recommends someone.
Yeah, for sure. Here's another great quote, this time from Jeff Bezos. When Jeff
Who reminds you of you.
Reminds me of me, minus the yacht and the jet. But I do have more hair.
He is jacked now. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have. Yes.
He is jacked. That reminds me of you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, especially since I had to skip the gym this morning. But what Jeff said is, great companies are great precisely because they stand for something special, different, distinctive. That means almost by definition that they are not for everybody. So it ties back to that moat that we want to build around the organization, that we don't want to be for everybody. It's not just the next person that walks in the door to fill out an application, right? We have to have a process in place to find those A players and to keep those A players.
And that ties into our earlier episodes and the earlier chapter, the power of purpose. So let's get into some specific examples, right? Tactical examples of what the best companies who provide a recruitment experience. The first one is, this can start, your recruiting and interview process actually can start long before the interview process, about where you're casting your bait. And, when people come, the objective of hiring is not simply to fill openings with warm bodies. It doesn't matter if you are a small, medium, or large organization, you are the director of human resources, head of recruitment, or a department leader. You want to make sure that you are attracting the right candidates. And the first step is, how you're branding your culture. And it needs to be specific. If you go to most people, even your own website, where it says career opportunities, it probably reads like everyone else's. And, it's kind of like companies that, on every website say they're great at customer experience. No one really believes that because they all say the same thing. So branding your culture needs to be strong and defined in every way a candidate can be exposed to, from what they see on your website, to your social media presence, to what existing and past employees have to say, reviews, customer reviews, and the interview process. And so what I say is make it overwhelmingly obvious what you stand for. So one of my favorite examples is Atlassian. And on their website, they have a video that we're just going to show a short snippet. But Atlassian is a technology company, a global technology company, but they talk about their core values. And you'll immediately know by watching it, it'll either turn you on or turn you off. They are not for everyone. And it's designed that everyone just doesn't, apply and hope that they get a job or hope they get the job offer. It will probably deter maybe 50, 60, 70% of people applying. So let's watch a snippet.
Open company, no bullshit.
The funny thing about Atlassian is that everybody is really passionate about what they're doing. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody wants what's better for the user.
It's not just about doing the work that you do, it's also about like hanging out with the people here, and it's like being part of a big family.
Don't the customer.
So initially, I think when people come from more traditional corporate style environments, they're just kind of like a little shocked initially.
Don't the customer, when I think that, it forces me to step out of my engineering mindset, thinking about the intimate details of the problem, and to think, if I was a person in front of a computer using this, how would it affect me?
I mean, that's just, a short clip. The video that we showed goes over all their core values. Mm-hmm. And again, they make it black and white. They're not a typical stuffy corporation and conservative. And so not saying it's right or wrong, but it's distinct. Some other great recruitment experiences that we found, great companies do is they make sure it's multiple interviews. It doesn't matter if they're desperate and they needed people a month ago. They still put you through the interview process. And this is so important because so many other companies that you go to apply for are like, see you filling out the application and say, you don't have to finish, yeah. Can you start today? Yeah. And there's something about when people make it hard, that the candidate almost wants it more. It's like, well, what do you mean? Like, I have to come back for an interview. And then they start getting concerned that maybe they aren't going to get hired. And the best companies have multiple team members be involved in the interview process. Not necessarily interviewing them, but taking them around, talking to them. And I'm not talking about leadership, right? Of course, you want leaders involved, but just team members that they may be working for. And that allows your employees to feel a sense of guardianship of your culture. And so it's like, hey, what did you think of that Dave that was interviewing that you spoke to for a few minutes? I really liked him. He really asked some good questions. Or, you know what? All he asked was, when, how many vacation days does he get? And do we have, dental plan or, things like that. Another best practice is a shadow day. We've always done this in all our companies because if someone doesn't have experience in the industry, which we've always liked to, in all my businesses, we like to bring green people in. We don't want them to have, trained. We want to train them our own way. But the drawback to that is they don't really know what it's like. And the job may look fun. Like you could be interviewing for a consultant, Dave. We've interviewed and hired a lot of consultants since you started, and you're part of that interview process, but they've never been a consultant before. And as you know, it looks really romantic, right? Oh my God, you're on big stages and traveling to great places, and you're getting applause, and whatever that may look like. And Dave, that's a small part of it, but that's not all the job. I mean, so going with you, talking
John,
to you, go ahead. Yeah.
It makes me think when Jess Pischel was with us, and
Yeah.
she was telling a story about her first trip. She was so excited to join an organization, and her vision of consulting was going to New York, maybe going to London, doing all these trips. And the first place she had to go was with me as a shadow to Beloit, Wisconsin, in a snowstorm.
Right. Right. And you basically took a plane, a train, a rental car, and
Yeah,
but as
right.
you know, you're sitting on runways, maybe at 1 a.m. and haven't taken off yet, and have to start the workshop at 8 a.m. And listen, it's a great job, but it's not just from far away like any job. It seems like it's all so a shadow day is really important for a potential, or a shadow hour, whatever that may look like, for a potential candidate to see, what the reality, a day in the life of that person is. And so, another a great recruitment experience is finding out what investment did the candidate make, and finding out if they're just interviewing everywhere. Ask him, hey, Dave, what attracted you about the DiJulius group? And see if he knows anything about the DiJulius group. If he did his research about the company, and and that right there. But one of my favorites, and we talk a lot about them in our book, is our friend Jesse Cole from Savannah Bananas, and what they do. So we've all heard of cover letters that you send with your resume. Well, Jesse Cole does, or the Savannah Bananas, which you have to understand who the Savannah Bananas are. They're the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. So there's a unique personality trait that you have to work at the Savannah Bananas. I mean, they are obsessive about the fan experience. So what they do is, instead of a cover letter, they make you do a video cover letter to demonstrate. So I'm going to show you an example of one of theirs.
Hi, my name is Ashley Nelson, and I am applying for the Director of Events position with the Savannah Bananas. After reading this job description, I know that I would be a great fit because I'm organized, detail-oriented, and big picture-driven. I have extensive experience in public relations as well as marketing and events. I can successfully handle multiple tasks simultaneously, and I'm comfortable leading others. Let's go!
So, Dave, I'm sure you've seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I didn't pick it up the first time. All the things that she did in an interview, besides, getting a feeling for her energy, she shot the interview in front of the Savannah Bananas Stadium. And
right.
Did you see what music she had playing in the background?
Take me out to the ball game.
Take me out to the ballpark. I mean, that's creative. I mean, someone could just pick up a phone, in their chair, and say, hey, I really would love to work for the Savannah Bananas in your company because I am nice. And she went to great lengths. And here's what Jesse Cole himself, owner of Savannah Bananas, says: video cover letters are huge for us because we can immediately see personality, enthusiasm from a person. Do they lift us up? Do they bring energy? And he continues, within seconds on the video, we can tell if we want to hang out with that person. I love that he says that. All of our positions are outward facing and with our fans regularly. So this is important. If we don't want to hang out with them, Jesse says, if they don't bring energy and lift us up, why would our fans want to be around them? I love that. Jesse's,
it's also, it's a great case study too, John, because in just a few short years, they have gone from playing in their own ballpark, which they sell out regularly and have a waiting list for season tickets, So they've been doing a good job for a long time. But, hiring like this focus on hiring, making sure they find the right people. Now, this year, they're actually selling out Major League Baseball
Major League
ballparks.
stadiums.
Yes.
Like it's crazy. And if you haven't seen them and they're coming to your city, try to get a ticket. The baseball game, is you'll be disappointed when the baseball game resumes, because what they do between the innings before the game, but what they do on the field is crazy. And here's my prediction, Dave. In our books, I think this is at least the second time we've written about Savannah Bananas. And I've read other books, and now they're writing. In a couple years, people are going to get sick of reading about the Savannah Bananas, kind of like, you're sick of reading about Disney and Zappos and Southwest and sick just because, they just they're going to be written about in every book. They're so incredible.
Right. Really are. Yes.
Finally, the recruitment experience, or finally, what I want to talk about, tie the brand's purpose directly to their job. I think that's so important. And make sure what we've had is, the day in the life. We've had some clients of ours play the day in the life of a customer video in the interview process, which I don't know about you, Dave. I never thought of it. I thought it was just a training piece, but they get to see if that inspires you, or if you're just kind of numb and like, okay, what else? And so, it goes back to the purpose of it. Dave, I don't know even if you know about this, but I just interviewed Scott Greenberg recently on my podcast, The Customer Service Revolution, within the past month. And he told me two stories that were such a great recruitment experience examples. Scott Greenberg, author of Shift Happens,
Yes.
and he talks about that one company that he knows, or maybe he works with, when they're interviewing a candidate and they come to the building for an interview, they have a reserved parking spot out front for that candidate, right? So they'll say this spot is reserved for Dave Murray. And you're like, holy cow. And then you walk in, the receptionist greets you and your name's on the board. Welcome, Dave Murray. And the receptionist knows who you are. Talk about a recruitment experience. Like, if you're going someplace else, or you just came from another interview, there's a good chance that they're not wooing you like that.
100%. That's such a great example. It also reminds me of some of the things that we've talked to clients about on the consulting, on the customer experience side of things, right? Where how you welcome your customers that way. Why not welcome a prospect the same way and make them feel great about being a part of the organization? I love that.
Dave, I don't know if it's this topic or this can of Celsius that I just drank, who's not a sponsor, by the way, but they can be. But this really gets me excited.
It does, because there's so much opportunity here, so much missed opportunity most of the time. And so, John, earlier in this episode, you brought up making your interview process ungameable. We're going to go a little deeper in that, because we have to remember, when we're interviewing someone, they're at the top of their game, right? They're ready to go. They should be prepared. There are some people out there that I would even refer to as professional interviewers. Maybe they interview really well. They interview a lot because they don't hold the job all that well, because maybe they're not a high performer, but they can interview really, really well. And that's what's out there. So how do you avoid falling into that
Dave,
trap?
an interview is like a first date, which fortunately I haven't been on in a while. But listen, if you're a guy, hopefully my sons know this, you better be opening the door and paying for things at the very least on the first date, hopefully always. But you can't tell anything from a first date because everyone's on their best behavior.
Right. So true. And so here's a couple of things you can do to make your interview process ungameable. One of the first ones that I love is group interviews. And I remember my first interview with the DiJulius group 11 years ago now. I walked into the office, the old office that we were in. I walked into the conference room, and there were probably 9 or 10 other people there, and they were all there for the same position, right? You were hiring one position, and there were probably 9 or 10 people around that conference room table that were there for the initial group interview. And those can be so helpful and so important. So it did a couple of things, right? It set the expectations. It allowed the DiJulius group to set the expectations about the job, right? So that people weren't going too far down the path until they really knew that, okay, you're going to have to travel quite a bit, and you're going to have to do this, and it's going to require public speaking. It's going to require this. So people were able to self-select themselves out from that experience without having to go through the process and the prep of having to have that one-on-one
Dave,
interview.
It's a genuine question. I didn't realize that. I don't even think I was probably part of that first interview that you were in. But when you walk in and see a half a dozen or more other people that possibly you weren't expecting, I think it also makes you realize is crap. Like, I may not get this thing. And yeah. So I'm proud of that.
Yeah, I
How
definitely.
you got the job. I want to know who the heck those other 8 people are and what they're doing today.
Yeah, they could be doing great things, but you're 100% correct. In my head, I thought to myself, I got to bring it, right?
Yeah.
I gotta really focus on this, and I got to be on my
I'm not
A
their only
game.
candidate.
Right. But here's the other thing that a group interview does so well. It allows you to observe them, the candidates, in that interaction with other people. So it's not a one-on-one, right? It's not just you and the interviewer, the candidate and the interviewer, and that's kind of easy to game, right? I can brown nose, I can compliment you on your suit or whatever.
That
I
will
can really
work
focus on
with
you.
me, though. That definitely will work.
I know. Yes, it does. But you also get a chance to focus on them and how they interact with others in an environment, in this case, that's competitive, right? I'm sitting in between a couple of people that I'm up against for this job, and how am I interacting with them? Am I supportive? Am I not? It reminds me of a great story, John, that Sheldon Harris shares. He's from CEO Coaching International. He tells a story when he was the CEO of Cold Stone Creamery. He was with Cold Stone, and they had an interview process where when they had to open a new store and they were trying to staff 12 people or so, they would conduct group interviews as the first interview. They'd do it at a hotel ballroom. They'd rent a small ballroom at a hotel. They'd bring in 30 or 40 people, and they'd go through this group process interview. And at one point during that interview, they'd bring out a boom box and they put it in the center of the circle. They'd have everyone stand in a circle. They'd put a boom box there. They'd hit play, and they would start playing some sort of dance music, and they would encourage everybody to dance. And so everyone would start dancing. Then one by one, everyone in that interview process had to come to the center of the circle and give their best moves. And then at the end of that, so all 30 people would kind of have to go in the center and dance and then go back out. And then at the end of that, they would select the people that they were going to bring back for the next round of interviews. And Sheldon tells this story. It's so funny that one time they were doing this, one gentleman did not get asked back, and he was a little confused. So he came up to the recruiters after the fact when everyone had left and said, I don't know what you're thinking, because I was obviously the best dancer. I've been dancing all my life. And the response was, well, you are a great dancer, but we're not looking for dancers, right? This exercise wasn't about your ability to dance. This exercise was about what were you doing when you were waiting your turn, right? Were you supportive of that person next to you that was
Yeah.
so nervous and was sweating bricks? Were you helping them? Were you supportive, or you were just kind of like waiting for your turn and kind of elbowing people out
And that's
of your
what
way?
the whole thing is not letting the candidate really know what they're being judged on. Like you said in the group interview, you might be speaking and I'm totally like, thinking about how I'm going to one up your story. Like if we're being asked, hey, tell us a time when you went above and beyond for a client, or I might be peeking at my Apple Watch or the floor, or I'm smiling and laughing at something you just said that was funny, and I'm making you feel warm and welcome.
Right. 100%. Another thing that we talk about when we talk about making your process ungameable is the engagement indicator. Sometimes this helps with having 2 people in the interview process, but you can do it with just one interviewer. They just have to be focused on this and cognizant of this. And we've had so many clients take this idea and love it and run with it. And it's really quite simple. What you're doing is, while you're going through that interview, you're going through that process and asking those questions that you have, those important questions. You're also paying attention to how many times a person is making eye contact with you. or giving you an ear-to-ear smile, or displaying enthusiasm and engaging you naturally. And here's why that's so important. It's because those are soft skills. And if that person doesn't have those innate soft skills in them to do that on a day where they're selling themselves, chances are pretty good they're not going to be able to do it on behalf of your brand. And so I wouldn't necessarily say this is a rule in or rule out a candidate, but it can go a long way if you're trying to decide, say, especially if someone's going to be in a customer facing position, if that's the right role for them, if they're not good at executing these. So we have a lot of clients of ours that actually print this list out, eye contact, ear-to-ear smile, enthusiasm, and engaging, and make sure they have it on somewhere on that list of questions they're asking, so it's top of mind and they're remembering to check off, okay, they're making good eye contact. Just a reminder to be looking for those things during the course of the interview.
Yeah, I mean, like if I'm asking, Dave, I see that you like to run a lot, and that's your hobby, right? That's your recreation, and you're like, yeah, and I can't get you to smile even on things that you're passionate about. I'm not talking about the when you got your appendix removed, right? I'm talking about something you supposedly love, or your 3 kids. You have 3 kids, right, Dave?
I do have 3 of them, yes.
Okay, good.
We also talk about interviewing like Columbo. Now,
Did you ever see Columbo, Dave? Are you old enough?
I do. I am old enough. I do remember that show when I was a kid, 100%.
Yeah, so you might have to explain it for our audience. I actually just writing, co-authoring this book. I watched a few episodes. Just to be reminded of it. I think I just naturally did it in my own style. I'm not, thinking about it, but just like, you sit down and say, Dave, before we start the interview, I saw that you went to St. Ignatius, and obviously the interview's starting, right? But
yes,
people really don't know that. And, and let's talk about your son, Will, who's in high school right now. Someday he won't be, hopefully, right? And, if someone's interviewing and say, Will, did you play sports in high? Before we start the interview, you went to Chagrin Falls, right? That's where he goes.
Correct.
And you played, did you play any activities? And he lists, he plays a lot of activities. But let's just say one of them, baseball, basketball, football, let's say he only did it for 2 years, of his 4 years, right? And so you say, I would say, Will, what made, why'd you stop playing football, after your sophomore year? And it's what he says next is so important, right? Oh, I really wanted to focus on grades, or I really wanted to focus on, my best sport, basketball or baseball, or the coach, was a jerk, and, he started his, his best friend's, his favorite in front of me, right? But then I go into something else, so just start working at, why, hey, I see that you worked at, so and small Tropical Smoothies, because I just spoke for them. So they're, how is that? And if you had to complain about that, to me, the value is going down in rabbit holes, and you let the guard down. And that's what Columbo did so well. He was such a bumbling idiot, which I play very well. And so you let your guard down, and you're so far away from the interview process, but you these irrelevant topics string together a pattern that you're learning about the person. So sorry,
it lets you see trends.
Yeah,
it lets you realize trends. And you're right, John. The thing that was so funny about the Columbo show that made him that bumbling idiot is he was asking all these questions that really appeared to have nothing to do with the topic at hand.
Right.
It had nothing to do with the crime, but at the end of the show, he would always put everything together, right? He would bring it back and say, okay, well, you complained about this, you complained about this, you complained about this, you're going to be a poor employee, right? He would always kind of tie it back, and everything that he asked, everything that he learned helped him get to his decision.
Yes. Yeah. So love Columbo. Sorry, I jumped you there, but I get excited about that because I'm just naturally a bumbling idiot, disheveled, can't find my pen or my phone or whatever. So I play that character well.
100%. So, undercover interviews, kissing up or kicking down. This is such a great concept.
Yeah.
What are prospects doing when they're not with the interviewer, right? What are they doing on the ride over and with the Uber driver when they're coming from the airport? What are they doing when they're talking to the receptionist at the front desk? What do they say to the delivery driver or some other coworker they happen to pass in the hallway, right? Are they stressed and mean? It's so important to be able to observe these. I know many organizations who have the reception desk as part of the interview process, right? So before someone is hired, before a decision is made, after that first or second interview, they go out and ask the receptionist, how was Dave? How did Dave treat you? Was he nervous? Was he nice? Was he
compared to the other three people that checked in?
100%. One of my favorite stories when it comes to undercover interviews goes back to our good friend Jay Jaffrey from Image First. And here's what happened with Jay.
He's in the book.
He's in the book. He was interviewing for a job with a large industrial supplier. This was years ago. He flew in for an interview, was picked up at the airport. They arranged transportation for him and then put him up at a hotel. And then the next day he had some interviews. Well, he didn't know it at the time, but the person who picked him up at the airport, who looked like a chauffeur, was actually one of the vice presidents of the organization.
Love that.
Who wanted to spend that time in the car, the 20-minute ride from the airport to the hotel, having that conversation, just kind of having some banter back and forth.
Or like what Jay could have been on the phone talking to his wife or someone and saying, I don't want this job. They bet, if they only offer me, the world, would I ever consider taking this job? I heard, so many times we put the guard down. Or, a person could be on their phone when the driver pulls up and I'm just, texting or, preoccupied, and don't help them with the luggage or just treat them like kicking down, like you said.
Right.
But then you see him the next day on the interview and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. Boy, I should have tipped you. So here's another great example. This one's brilliant. So Walt Bettinger, who's CEO of Charles Schwab, he does this when
he's
he has
one of
to
my
interview.
favorite. He's my new favorite CEO, Dave.
Yeah, for sure. Now, when he's interviewing folks, it's usually pretty senior level, right, that he gets involved. But he does meet with folks that are going through that hiring process. And he has developed this over time, and it's really just fascinating, and it's brilliant. And so what he does is he likes to interview over breakfast. So he invites the candidate to breakfast to his favorite restaurant, and he gets there first, and he's waiting for them. He meets them there, right? And so when the server comes to take orders, both parties order their food. Walt orders what he wants, the candidate orders what he wants. And then when the food is delivered a few minutes later, the candidate's order comes out completely wrong. Whatever they ordered, it's not what they got. And Walt does that on purpose. He goes in before the candidate arrives. He prearranges that, whatever they order, bring out something else, because he wants to see how they respond. Again, do they go into complain mode? Do they say this server's an idiot? I can't believe it. Are they gracious and explain nicely that this was not correct? Are they timid and don't say anything at all and just eat what's in front of them? Right. So there's so many things that can happen.
Yeah. And it needs to be understood. This isn't for every employee. This is a senior level, maybe promotion or outsider that is that Charles Schwab is thinking about hiring, that he would be involved in.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, I love this chapter. There's so many more ideas that we have that we've collected, that we've helped organizations do, that the book really goes into changing the world by creating an employee revolution. And let's revisit that definition again. Great companies help people, and people stands for obviously your employees, your co-leaders, your community, your customers, right? Great companies help people live extraordinary lives. Their leaders inspire employees to build lives of meaning and purpose. And so that's chapter 4, creating a recruitment experience, which I probably say this every time we cover a chapter, but I do believe, as of today, that's my favorite chapter in our book. Any final thoughts,
It's a great
Dave?
one. My only final thought is today was great. This is such a great opportunity to the recruitment experience. Again, one that I know most organizations don't spend enough time, if any. So if you have not focused on your recruitment experience, now is the time to start. So great chapter. But I'll tell you what else, John. I'm already looking forward to our next conversation on our next chapter, which is the onboarding experience, because that one is so important too.
And one of the best pieces of advice I got early on in my career, I want to say I was meeting with Alan Rosscamp, who back then was the president of Joann Fabrics, huge company, very nice guy. And I was just building the salons. It was in the early 90s. And he said, are you constantly interviewing? I said, not right now. We're good.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, always be interviewing. And I'm like, at first I was like, well, why would I waste my time if we're set? He goes, listen, you're not going to be set tomorrow. You're going to grow and you're going to have turnover and you're not going to be prepared for it. So you always be interviewing and always have a bench ready to hire, because when you need someone, you actually needed them 3 weeks ago. You needed them 3 months ago. So they're ready to step in today. And it was the best piece of advice is, right now, this topic is popular. The book is popular, but when things come back, when it's not a labor shortage, people like they have the past 12 years, because the economy has been so great, got away from this. And, that's why. And so, order the Employee Experience Revolution. It's on Amazon. It comes out June 10th, but it is a fantastic read. Every leader in your company should be reading it. And okay. Well, I know we ran long. If you have time, stay on. I'd love to answer any questions, clarify any of our points. Use the Q&A and hit me with it. Either your highlights or something that you want to know how it applies to your world. Anyone? Give me a highlight. Give me your favorite takeaway. I saw some of them in there in the chat. Any questions? Okay, let's see. Where to go? I had one from... Sorry. I really enjoyed making the interview. I really enjoyed making the interview process ungameable. Also make it an experience. Kareen, I like the guardians of our culture point about having multiple team members in interviews. Being like Columbo. Favorite takeaway is implementing the 4 E's. Yes, love that. Going to... For Britt, for small businesses who might not be able to invest money in the hiring process, do you have any advice? Well, Britt, this is, so much of this we did when we were tiny, just like the group interviews. We didn't have time to block off, the few employees we had. if we were interviewing for one position, but maybe we had 6 candidates, that's 6 hours if you interview each person. So having the group interview was great because now it's only one interview, and you see who wants to go to the next date, the next interview. Some people opt out on the first interview; they self-select them out. So I think a lot of these things, are great for small businesses. An aha for me, Brittany Ross, is tying the company's purpose to the job. Oh, 100%. I mean, 100%. You got to. Otherwise, people think it's like every other company. It's just a mindless transactional job until they get something better. Jenna, I like to remind her about how quickly negative energy spreads. Taking care of the bottom performers also takes care of the top performers. Yeah, 100%. Wait, I got a question. I'm trying to toggle. Gina, is there a date yet for the 2024 Customer Service Revolution Conference? Thanks, Gina, for asking that. We have decided not to have it in 24. We hope to bring it back in 25. We're still tinkering with the idea of doing a virtual this year, but we're definitely not having a live. Thanks, Gina, for asking that. Let me see. I think I got another one from Britt. I'm sorry. Hold on. I never witnessed a group interview. That's a great idea. Does it generally work the same as a one-on-one? Yeah, I mean, obviously it's the last conversation, but in our group, in our first round of interview, it's kind of like going over the non-negotiables. Okay, here's what our company is about. Here's what the position entails. Here's what we expect. And then we'll go into some questions like, who can tell us a time when they went above and beyond for the customer? And that's not necessarily what we really care about. We're just seeing, as we talked about in the webinar, what people are doing when other people are talking. Everyone's got to come up with a good answer. Traditionally, there could be some. So the answers probably can't help. They can only hurt because, but more importantly, we just want to see what people are doing when others are talking. Kind of like when Dave talked about the dancing and stuff, in that one interview. All right. Oh, Victor, any thoughts on passive candidates who may not be actively seeking new opportunities, but could be a great fit for our organization? What would be a great recruitment approach to attract and engage these individuals? Yeah, that's a great question because there are a lot of candidates out there that would be a great fit, but maybe aren't looking. So I think that's where the branding comes in, social media, constantly be marketing, what the company stands for, the success stories, how, Victor went from customer service rep to vice president of in a few short years because of his performance. So I just think, you by branding it and you can create some FOMO out there and always saying, opportunities exist. Something that we might not have talked about on this that we're working on in our companies is we're working on creating our videos of our culture. But again, we don't want those videos to necessarily attract everyone. We want it to scare some people off. And literally, like in John Roberts Bob, we want to talk about this story, true story. An employee got fired for not smiling. Now, it wasn't one time, but I got this. I saw an email or something in Slack saying, we had to let go of so and so today, and so I responded with, "Who's that?" Because I'm not as familiar with the employees in John Roberts Spa anymore. And why? Because we don't fire that often. And that could be a bad thing, right? But the response was, oh, she's an assistant. She's been with us for about 6 months. Maybe she was a receptionist. I can't remember. But we couldn't get her to smile. I was so proud of that. I was literally so proud that was our standard. that, and we worked with her and encouraged her and all that. So I want that in our video, of our culture video. But I also want on our website and our career opportunity, whatever this is, says, before you fill out this application, watch this, because I want it to either get you more excited about applying, working here, or say it's not for me. And that saves time, especially, no one needs to be interviewing someone that during the interview process, they then find out what it takes to work here and say, oh God, I want nothing to do with this. So, Victor, I hope that helped. I just think it's constantly branding the uniqueness of your culture, your standards, and not just sounding like everyone else. Like if you go to, 10 websites, same industry, they all say the same thing about career opportunities. I want yours to say something different than the other 10, right? That we fire people for not smiling. Victor, someone like you, and that wouldn't be a problem. But there might be some people saying, really? So let me see if I have more. I for some reason I'm bouncing back and forth here. Denise, group interviews are a great way to weed people out. Once you go over your core values, your company's core value expectation, people either get excited to schedule the next interview or can't get out of the door fast enough. And Denise knows that. She's our managing partner. She invented a lot of this stuff 25 years ago when she was doing this first at the salons and then at the DiJulius group. Okay. Anything else? I think I've addressed it. Thanks everyone for being part of this, and we'll see you in 2 weeks when we do the creating an onboarding experience. Have a great week.